Welcome to Attigrader's Retro Reviews, where today we're going to be engaging our grey matter and seeing if we can score 4. Score 4 was first released in 1967 by a company called Funtastic. It was then picked up by Lakeside and released in the US throughout the 70s. This particular version is from Action GT, who released this in the UK in 1978. The Score 4 concept has been really popular and has been released by many different board game companies throughout the decades. This 1978 version by Action GT was part of Lakeside's abstract strategy range, where they released quite a few different types of abstract strategy games in similar style boxes. I've reviewed nearly all of the Lakeside abstract strategy games now, so if you haven't seen those reviews, you can check them out later. Like the other games in the range, there's not really much of anything to be said for box art. It's just a photograph of the game. It's pretty dull. It's not really very exciting at all. Or we don't even really have a very interesting font on this one. And just like all the rest of the games, the back of the box again is just black and white, giving you instructions and photographs of basic gameplay. If you've ever played Connect 4 before, then you already know pretty much how this game works. But let's take a closer look at this version anyway. Score 4 comes with 16 plastic rods or pins, plus 1 or 2 extra in case they get broken or lost. And these are quite well made. They're not going to snap particularly easy, but this is the first of some of the differences between different versions of Score 4. These ones are obviously black plastic, but there are versions of Score 4 which have see-through clear plastic rods. There are 64 plastic beads which slip onto the end of those rods. 32 of them are yellow and 32 of them are blue. And again, this is another difference. You can get Score 4 which has brown and white beads instead. And then we come on to the game board itself, which out of all of the parts is really the worst made, which goes quite a long way towards making this one of my least favourite of all of the Lakeside abstract strategy games. You can see that this board here is really thin and flimsy. We've got a thick plastic in the centre here. This is nicely made and well molded and strong, but the actual black piece itself, this has just been vacuum formed, and so because of that, it's really thin plastic and it splits really easily. It's really poor. You can see I've actually had to use some black electrical tape in order to repair the split down here, and also splits along the sides here where it's also broken because it's so flimsy. You can store balls and things, the beads, in here, but once you put this on and you press it down, it's quite hard to get this out of. And if this is on a flat surface and you press it down, you're putting a lot of weight and stress onto these joints here, meaning that it is going to split, which is exactly what has happened here. So this is really not well made, which is quite strange considering Lakeside's other games, which are all really well made from really strong, thick plastic. If you look at other copies of Score 4, you will see that there are in fact other versions of this. Not only are they a different colour with a brown cracked leather effect top game board piece, which is quite a bit wider than this green one, you can see that the actual black piece of the game board is actually made from that thick plastic that I've come to expect the Lakeside games to be made from, where it's much better quality. And you can also see that the corners where I pointed out that mine cracked have actually been reinforced with an extra thick piece of plastic there, so that there is definitely no stress or cracking there. To set up the game, we take the base, just put it flat on a surface and insert the 16 rods. Now again, as you can see I'm doing this is putting quite a bit of pressure on these corners. So again, really poorly engineered this particular version of Score 4. And you can see they won't even stay in place particularly well unless you push them really quite hard, and then you run the risk of cracking that thin plastic. So I'm going to have to even take this out, then put these in, because I can press much harder then, and then I can place this back into this black base here. But to be perfectly honest, you don't actually need this black base for anything. You could just put this green piece flat on a table and it would work just as well. I suppose this really is just for holding the blue and yellow beads, but you don't really need to do that at all. And that then is the game all set up, ready to go, with the beads in the tray and all of the rods in place. You can see some of them are not quite straight. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing looking game with some of these rods at slight angles, but that's not really the point. If you know how to play Connect 4, and let's face it, if you're into board games, who doesn't, then you're going to know exactly how to play this. It's just that instead of in 2 dimensions like Connect 4, you're doing it in 3 dimensions. So the object of the game is to get 4 of your colour of beads in a straight line, either horizontally like this, or like this, or like this. Or you can get 4 in a row vertically, or you can get 4 in a row going diagonally upwards. When you make your first line of 4, you've got to call out score 1. When you make your second line of 4, you've got to call out score 2. When you make your third line of 4, you call out score 3. And when you make your fourth line of 4, you have to call out score 4. And once you've done that, you've got score 4, you are then the winner of the game. Like Lakeside's other abstract strategy games, it's a really easy to learn game that's really simple to play. There's not a lot in the way of components, and although it is tactical and strategic, there's not a lot that you have to get your head around, and you don't have to be trying to follow lots of different things at once, which for me is a plus. I do like that way of playing strategy games. If there's too many things going on, it gets a bit overwhelming for me. I don't like having lots of little chits of cardboard and having to be able to refer to tables for different characters and things. I like having a straightforward game where I can just focus on it. Now, this obviously proved a really, really popular kind of strategy game. It's been released by many, many different companies throughout the decades in slightly different guises. And I suppose for that reason, it's really the least favourite. I already said that I don't particularly like this game because of the engineering, the construction of it, the fact that the base, the plastic is really, really flimsy, and the rods don't particularly stay in the base really well. But I also have to admit that that is a flaw on this particular version, whereas there are other versions which have that corrected and are much better quality. So if you are picking this up, make sure you get one of those versions instead of this version. The thing is, you cannot tell just by looking at the box because they all have exactly the same picture on the front. Make sure you open up the box, check the contents to see what version you're getting if you have this in hand. If you're getting it from eBay, make sure you check out those photos of the inside components carefully first. Apart from the construction and the materials though, the fact that this game is so widespread and has been done again and again by different companies, that kind of kills it for me. It loses its uniqueness. The Lakeside abstract strategy games, I found a lot of the other ones have really nice, unique gimmicks to them. This one, it's just kind of putting 4 things in a row. It's not that unique. It's not that special. It just really doesn't appeal to me that much. It doesn't have that fun factor that some of the other ones from Lakeside have. So for me, this is the weakest of all of them. I wasn't actually going to bother picking this one up. certainly not at eBay prices, but I did happen to come across this in a charity shop or a thrift store, and it was really cheap, so I did pick it up just to add to the collection so that I have the complete set of Lakeside abstract strategy games. But if it wasn't for that really cheap price, I don't think I would have bothered getting this. It doesn't appeal that much. There are lots and lots of games where you only have to get 4 things in a row to win, and adding that third dimension, it doesn't add that much to it. And even with that third dimension, there are lots of games that also have that third dimension in them. So you might like this game, but for me, it's not a big recommendation for me. If you don't have a game like this and you like this kind of thing, then sure, check it out, get it if you want it. But if you're going for an abstract strategy game, particularly one of the Lakeside ones, I wouldn't particularly bother with this. The other ones are much, much better. I have to say though, I am really growing to like the abstract strategy games. I love games with themes and sculpted pieces, but these ones are really growing on me. And I have actually added a lot more abstract strategy games to my collection, not from Lakeside. So keep a close lookout for them in the future, because those reviews will be coming soon. So if you don't want to miss out on those, make sure you subscribe, like the channel, hit that bell. Until next time, this is Attic Raiders Retro Reviews.